All right, people in mind listeners, welcome back. We are back again in the People in Mind podcast. This is your host, yours truly, Jordan Lee Dixon, and I have a very special guest for everyone listening, Travis Slocum.
Oh, beautiful morning, everyone. Yes, thank you so much, Jordan, for inviting me on your podcast. It is a great honor. As he said, my name's Travis Slocum, and I think that we have a couple interesting topics we're going to discuss today, and I'm glad to be here with you.
No problem. For those of you who don't know who Travis Slocum is, for those of you on the UCF campus, you do know who Travis Slocum is, but I'll go ahead and run down just a couple of his accolades, if I can just remember all of them. Jesus. 2017, 2018, Mr. NCNW.
Correct.
Culture director for MSC.
Yep.
CEO and creator of Black is Apparel. Join the revolution. Am I missing anything, Travis?
So
I know I'm missing a few things.
well, I mean, you did pretty good research.
Yeah.
I'm also part of the Gospel and Cultural Choir at the University of Central Florida.
Praise God.
I'm also a registered volunteer with Harbor House at Central Florida, advocating for domestic violence here in our community. Guys, this is very important to get involved with your community. I'm also involved with a couple of mentorship programs here in Orlando, those comprising of Memorial Middle School, Orange Center Elementary School, and Oak Ridge High School, reaching out to the community and just finding different and creative ways that you can go out and just help people, right? You know, volunteerism doesn't have to be just with an organization. You can go out and be great yourself. So
that's amazing, man. And it's interesting because I took a look at your calendar one time, and I like to believe I'm a busy person, right? I like to believe that I'm rarely ever home. I usually have like 14, 15-hour days. I took a look at your calendar, and I was like, I'm not doing shit. I think I need to add a few more things to my list, you know? But it's amazing, man. When I first got on campus, I believe I met you at a forum that I was at, and I believe it was what was it? One of the fraternities they put them on. I think it was either Guy Code or it was cuffing season.
Cuffing
season.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so my first semester here at UCF campus was fall 2017, and I told myself when I graduated from Broward College I was gonna come on UCF campus and just hit the ground running, you know, because I was always involved, but when I got here, I got flyer for cuffing season. I'm like, this sounds interesting, so I might as well just head out
check
to
it out a little bit.
And there was an interesting series of events that started to happen where they had a panel and they were talking about sex and relationships and situationships and things like that. I was started to, in my old age, I started to learn a few colloquialisms that I've never even heard of, and they had an involvement with those of us in attendance, and of course I answered some questions. I gave my 2 cents, and what ended up happening, they ended up inviting me on the panel. And I think that was when things started to take off for me personally. But then I met you afterwards, and you gave me the flyer, or you gave me the flyer for NCNW pageant. He was like, "I need you to run for Mr. NCNW," and I'm like, I don't know. I just got here, you know. But that was amazing because, you were completely different than anybody else I've encountered on campus in terms of your spirit, in terms of the way you carry yourself. You know, I'm very good at reading energies, and there's not too many people that I'm attracted to in the sense that, in receiving energy from them. But man, I tell you, brother, when I saw you walking around, I was like, yo, I gotta be like that guy. You know, this guy was in a suit and things like that. So, Travis, how do you what motivates you to be like that? Like, what part of your life has brought you to the point where, you know, I have to carry myself as this eloquent young king as you are?
You know, so first and foremost, I want to just do a little quick shout out to NCNW, National Council of Negro Women here at UCF. I love you ladies so much. And I do remember that time when I came up to you, and the way I see it and the way I go about life is that you can't really dictate your character solely on vanity and trying to acquire some sort of clout position within your community to try to get yourself known. I feel like for myself, what motivates me to do what I do and it is really just being a grateful servant of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, right? Just spreading love to each and every person, regardless of what you look like or where you come from. You know, people from different walks of life. Like, that's not what we're here to be put on this earth for. So every time I see a person, I always put a smile on my face. I wake up every single morning and I say, hey, beautiful morning, just as I told all of you today. So that's what gets me to be who I am, is just being very genuine and authentic. And you know what? It's kind of sad. You really don't find people like that nowadays.
You make a very good point. And the thing is, it's not just being genuine and authentic. You have to be genuinely and authentically happy. I've always told myself in my, you know, search of self intelligence, show people what you want to show them. Save the real you for the people who care. And showing somebody what you want to show them doesn't necessarily mean you're being fake. It's like you're loving people differently, right? However, you're like this all the time. You know, either you're legit just, you know, always on point, you know, relaxed, chill, you know, things like that, or you're very good at showing people what you want to show them. Either way, man, it's amazing because you are excelling in school. You're excelling in your extracurriculars. You're excelling in your businesses. Yet you still find some time for yourself, you know, and you're, how old are you, Travis? Like 22?
I'm 23.
23.
Yes.
Jesus, I'm 26 and I'm just now starting to get it together, you know? At 23, man, I was out there dicking around. I'm telling you, brother. Actually, no, at 23, that was the end of my dicking around, man. And when I say dicking around, I was just not focused, you know? But that's so cool because you've translated your faith, you've translated your spirit so well to the point where everyone around you says the same things about you. And that's something that I always strive to do, is that wherever I go, whatever I do, I make sure that nobody is saying anything different. And I see that a lot of times, especially with the young folk nowadays, is that if you see someone in a party, right? If you see someone at or outside or things like that, and you have, let's just say multiple people have the same conversation with someone, I've noticed that there are discrepancies in their personality.
Yeah.
You know, why do you think that is? Like, because because the young folk don't know who they are yet, and they're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, you know, I kind of think with, I guess, quote unquote, young folk, right? I want to say we're still looped in there, right?
Yeah, we are. Tupac was still on the radio when I was born.
Come on.
Saying.
But what I will say is that I feel like with a lot of young people or youth in general, is that we are in a constant struggle to not only fit into society, but then also to figure out and discover who we are as a person. And in the process of doing so, it is very hard for an individual, if they don't know who they are and then try to fit into society, into this little niche or into different cliques, they start to change who they are. And then they're constantly changing, that they constantly are not getting a grip on who they are, and then kind of get sucked into this repetitive cycle of either going out all the time and losing their focus, right? And they'll get to a point in life where they kind of reflect on who they are and they say, wow, why did I have to go through all of these, maybe what they would consider negative experiences, in order to kind of finally see this light that, oh, wow, maybe I need to start getting that focus and start getting on my grind and getting into, into a life where they start trying to seek some sort of purpose in their life from these negative, I guess, quote unquote, consequences or situations or situationships. And it is it's a turning point in people's lives. And honestly, I think it's just something that we all go through at some point.
We do. I feel as if at some point in time throughout anybody's life, there are different awakenings that we have. And it's all based on the knowledge that we've gained throughout our lifetime. That's called growth. That's literally what growth is, So you have to understand that people are going to like you or dislike you no matter what you do. Whether you're yourself or you're trying to be someone else. So why not just be yourself? Because then you're going to start attracting people who are more like you.
Right.
Who, or maybe not like you, but then that can offer a growing opportunity, an opportunity of growth. So why not just be yourself? Even if you're like quirky and you're socially awkward, you can't dance maybe like myself, if you're a little on the heftier side, maybe when you turn sideways you disappear. Like it's like certain people, like you just be yourself, because somebody out there is going to like you, right? And when you're that, then you can be more comfortable. Right. And then you can start to go ahead and explore the inner workings of yourself and then be the best person, be the best version of who that person is. And maybe it's that person that can possibly make a huge difference in their communities, with their families, maybe in the world. If you could just understand that, you know what, I am me. And no matter what I say or do, I can't necessarily worry about what people are going to feel. As long as I'm not hurting anyone, or maybe if I do hurt someone, I was being genuine. Somebody's always going to get butthurt about something, right? You can't, it's hard to walk around life and not offend anyone. However, it's not necessarily your words that you need to watch. It's your reaction to the consequence that is important. Let's say, for instance, I say something that offends you. You get a little upset about it. You express that to me. Now, what's more important now? You've done your job. You've expressed how you felt. What is going to determine whether we're friends or not after this is how I respond. And then you don't necessarily have to yell, scream, or be belligerent and things like that. Now you can start asking intelligent questions, not necessarily trying to prove my point right. Now it's all right, I see your truth, and I've told you mine.
Right.
Let's meet somewhere and let's create a different truth. Maybe I can offer some insight that you've never thought of before, or maybe you can offer some insight that I've never thought of before, and then create a whole new chain of thought. Right?
I think it's like, for me, I feel like when there is a level of opportunity that comes with a level of confidence. So there are a lot of people that they will have self-doubt within themselves on the capabilities that they have, or that they probably have never explored because they have always doubted that ability. But everyone has a deeper skill, a deeper purpose, a deeper sense of well-being, in the sense that when they go out into this world, you have a gift that no one has, and it's it cannot be compared to anyone because you are unique in your own way. And what I find is interesting is that people lack that, and they sometimes just look at themselves like, I'm not an. I'm like, hey, like, who cares about what anybody thinks? Like, at the end of the day, who really cares, and who are they that you have to impress them or change who you are as a person, right? I think that people don't think about it on that level as well. We always find ourselves in bad situations, and I always say, hey, like, I always give people the example is like, you kind of learn things in life, right? Maybe it's about yourself or maybe things that you've done, and you learn of it two ways, and two ways only, in my own opinion, is that one, I give the analogy of your mom telling you the stove is hot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so your mom says, okay, your mama go, hey, all right, now child, don't touch the stove because it's hot, all right? Now, you can do one of two things. You could take your mama's advice and you can be like, you know what? My mom told me it's hot. I ain't going to touch the stove because I'm going to burn myself.
Mm-hmm.
But you always have the second option. And someone will say, you know what? I don't believe my mom. It can't be that hot. And they'll touch the stove and they'll burn themselves. And so what I'm getting at is that you will go through things in life and you'll either have to experience them or you will have to find some trust or support system around you to make you feel like, okay, I trust their word, I trust what they're saying to me, and I'm not going to go down that road, right? And then that can also eliminate a lot of self-doubt, having a great support system, right? And then being able to define your character, because it's not what happens to you that determines who you are as a person. It's how you respond. It's how you react. So I agree with what you were saying, was that, it's just how you react to that will define who you are and define your character in general.
Man, that hot stove metaphor is something that I used a lot earlier, and it's definitely something that nobody thinks about, because it's like, once you've been burned, you understand, like, you can either do one of two things. You can either try to get a different result, which is also called insanity.
Yeah.
Right? Some of us are being insane and we don't even know, right? Especially with our relationships. You keep getting burned over and over and over again. You understand, hey, listen, the stove is hot. Don't touch the stove, right? You see the red rings, the rings are red, man. You understand that, listen, that's hot. I need to not go near that. There are certain people who are toxic in our lives that we know that, hey, if I give you a phone call, if I send that text message, maybe when I'm in a space of loneliness or insecurity, and I understand that, just although you are not good for me, you are all I know. And that's another thing. Maybe there are some people who maybe have not even experienced goodness in their life at all. So they go to what's familiar. And that's another, I feel as if that is that's kind of like a virus that the human condition has contracted, because what is familiar nowadays? Because there are some people who will not talk to others because now I'm afraid of the goodness that you offer, because I'm not used to it. I don't know how to handle it, right? And now because you have never experienced goodness, you have never even experienced fullness of self. All you know is the negatives and how to be negative. Now these insecurities are coming, and now you're living in the insecurities. And as a person who does experience anxiety, I would say I suffer from it. That makes anxiety bigger. That makes anxiety bigger, but also makes it feel the most dangerous. And when I say the most dangerous, that makes anxiety feel comfortable.
Ooh.
Whenever your comfort is a state of anxiousness, that's when you don't even know that you're in a prison. Whenever anxiety is starting to punch you in the face and put you in a chokehold, at least you know you are uncomfortable. But whenever you're basking in it, living in it, you feel safe, like it's a warm blanket, you can sleep at night, right? You don't even know what you're doing. Now you're trapped. Everything that's bad for you feels good, and that's a problem. And when somebody tells you that, hey, listen, that's bad for you, you tell them to shut the F up, because I'm comfortable. Who are you? right?
Right.
So there's that. So you are completely right that people should know who they are and be who they are in fulfillment, right? Fulfill themselves. But the same argument goes like, if somebody is comfortable in their anxiety, or somebody's comfortable in falseness, or somebody's comfortable in negativity, that argument can still apply. But then how can we combat that? Right? How can you show somebody who has never known goodness and let them know that this is good for them? And that goes into their mental, right? Mental
Right.
illnesses.
Right. I feel like with mental illnesses, you kind of really have to and it's very hard. It's very hard to show someone that goodness if they've never experienced it. And I feel like that's the unbalanced duality of the subject, is that you have so many people who have experienced a lot of negativity or have never seen, a way for them to see what is good, right? And have a good template or a structure to build that foundation upon. And for me, I feel like with a lot of people, aside from mental illnesses and stuff, because we do, and I'll say this to everybody, we all face mental illness. I don't care who you are, all right? There are days where you are just stressed out. There are days when you're just really depressed. And there are days when you're just extremely anxious. And that is something that, I don't know, Jordan, you were saying it, and I believe that a lot of men, and especially men, especially minority black men, but then just people just need to admit and come to it, because this sense of pride that comes and flutters through all of these different Twitter feeds, like, yeah, everything's good, or the cliche, oh yeah, I'm good type response. You guys need to reach out. But going back to mental illnesses, is that one is just being able to be in that environment and reflect upon yourself and just come to a level of acceptance. Is that, people who have never experienced something good, they are very hesitant on actually trying to digest this, saying, okay, well, is this good? I don't really know if it's good because I've never experienced that. And then they become a little bit more, they become the opposition. And then when they become the opposition, then they get into a sense of, oh, well, I don't know. And that hesitation that you have, you need to take baby steps in order to understand that, oh, well, this is something good and this is something I can benefit from. Maybe, I don't know, but that's life, right? You're going to be put in uncomfortable situations. And literally the secret to growing in self-growth, professional growth, whatever that growth may be within yourself, is to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? But never remain content. See, that's the thing. Never remain content in anything that you do. Stagnation to me personally is the most unattractive thing that I realize in a lot of people. Progression, taking one step forward. I don't care where that is. You know what I mean? And that also, maybe that one step, you're just being content, being in your anxious state. That one step is just trying something a little different. Switch it up a little bit. Maybe you don't know if something's going to be good or not, but you'll never know unless you try it, right? Exactly. And so you need to be uncomfortable, but then feel comfortable actually going out and feeling uncomfortable.
Like it's weird because you're touching on this base, and I want to go a little deeper than that, right? Because when you look at comfort, we got to plow the earth, right? We look at that. If we want to plant a seed of growth. Let's preach for a second. If you want to plant a seed of growth, right? You want to sow your seed of growth. You cannot sow your seed on a field that has not been uprooted. If there's plants already growing there, you have to plow the earth, dig deep within yourself. Yourself is the vessel, the earth, right? Dig deep, and so you can plant that seed, right? And even then, even if you plant that seed, the idea, right? That idea, let's look at the seed as an idea, right? You've dug deep, you realize, okay, I've planted this idea. Now, what does a seed need to grow? It needs the sun. We're always looking for the sun, right? We want to bask in the glory of everything. Lord, look at God as a sun. We want to bask in the glory of God, the goodness of God, right? And yes, Lord, shine on me. But what happens when the sun goes away and the rain falls? we start to turn away. Why is that? Why is now the rain, which came from the same place, but now it's not attractive to you because you are uncomfortable with the rain? Why is now that a deterrent? Why do we quit when the rain falls? The seed needs the sun and the rain to grow, does it not? It needs the sun and the rain to grow consistently, right? So after the rain falls, if you endure and realize, hey, listen, God is still there. This is probably what God is preparing me for. This rain that is falling upon me, this discomfort probably comes from God to get me ready for a blessing that's coming my way. Right? If you endure and still trust in God, look up and understand that He is still there with you. The rain will pass, always. Nothing stays sunny forever and nothing rains forever. And then the sun is always that much brighter afterwards. And once the sun hits you again and you're basking in the glory of God, now that you've gotten through that rain, crossed the valley, right? Now the growth starts to begin. But before that, what do you have to go through? The rain. And then you've grown, but it doesn't stop there, because now you're just a little bud. You've just started to touch your potential. Now you need more sun. Now you need more rain. And now the growth has to come again. You have to look at the sun, bask in the sun, say, yes, give me more, give me more, give me more. And then when the rain comes, you have to do the same. Be uncomfortable, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's just the language I wanted to use with all my spiritual listeners and all my Christian listeners. If I wanted to use that language to, make sure I get that message across as much as possible, because we want to make sure that if we want to be completely intelligent, full intelligence of self, we have to accept the bad with the good. If we are going to be happy with everything good that comes our way, right? If everything good comes our way, if we're going to be happy, we also have to accept the bad that comes with it.
You had me thinking while you were saying that. It's just, you can never actually like just taking it out of all of metaphor and just going to literal sense. Like, you really could not, like, here in Florida, so we're in Orlando, Florida right now. I'm telling you, for, what was it? Over the summer, it rained back to back to back. But when that sun came out, I cannot tell you how happy I was to get a little bit of sun.
Exactly.
Now, that being said, you cannot appreciate some good sunshine without some rain. Right? Because it was just sun. If it was just sunny every day, I'm like, man, I'm sweating. All right, I can't do this. I perspirate a little bit. All right.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people don't realize is that, you can't just have all good and no bad. There is a balance. There is a scale, right? You're just going to have to live and accept and understand that the good will be good as long as you keep that mindset that it will always be there. See, one thing that I always say with a lot of people who, say they're quote unquote Christians, and I ain't trying to snap on people, and I ain't going to preach this morning, but what I will say is that I always run into a lot of Christians who will treat Christianity, and it doesn't even really matter as far as, the Christianity aspect. A lot of religions fall along this basis as well, and even in spirituality in general, is that they treat it just like a buffet. And I'm going to use Christianity as my example, is that in Christianity, people treat it like a buffet. Everybody wants to go to the buffet, and they get their little plate. They go up, you know what? I want some blessings. Let me get salvation. Can I get some salvation? Or thank you. Oh, grace. Oh, no. I need some grace. Some grace would be amazing. Throw some grace on my plate.
Sprinkle a little anointing on it.
Some anointing. Okay.
I like mine with a little bit of anointing.
Right. But see, no one wants to have the humility.
Mm.
No one wants to take in the obedience.
Mm-hmm.
No one wants to take in the sacrifice. See, people just want blessings, but they don't want to put in the work to get there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They think that things will be handed to them in the way I see it, and personally for me and how I receive my word is I see it as a soup kitchen, you know? And people are like, well, why would you take a place that's just, you know, just low quality food, right? Aren't our blessings supposed to be great and wonderful? And the thing that I love about a soup kitchen is that you have somebody there and they are there to help and feed you because we are broken people in this world. We are sinners. We go through life each and every day as sinners, and that we need healing and we need nutrients. We need to grow. And someone comes up to me and they say, hey, I want to help feed you because I want to feed you the word so that you can digest that. I'm not going to give you what you want. I'm not going to give you a 5-star meal with lobster and steak. I'm going to give you what you need. I'm going to give you what you need to get by so that way we can get you there. So that way you can survive. And you have to be grateful because you don't pay anything. All you have to do is pay with your obedience. That's it.
Amen.
You just got to show up.
Amen.
And time again, I always see Christians, you know, like, oh, yeah, you know, God, give me my blessing. I need my blessing. You know what I'm saying? I need my blessing. But what work are you putting in, right? And that goes back to what we were saying with stagnation, you know? You cannot go through this life and not do anything and expect everything to pay out for you. That's just not how it works.
Yeah. You're completely right, man. And if the thing is, like, we don't know what work is because in this generation, we are so used to instant gratification. Our attention spans have been dwindled down to 1-minute videos on Instagram. You know?
Yeah,
it's
true.
It's crazy.
That's very true.
Let's even look at our romantic human experiences where now it's about speed. It's about your first impression right then and there. Actually, we have devolved to the point where now we can literally look at a picture, right? And based on our like or dislike of a person's appearance right at first glance, we have devolved to swiping someone left and swiping someone right. That's very interesting. But I want to go back. I want to go back to blackness. I want to go back to black men and the issue that you posed about black men in society and facing our issues. And well, first of all, I want to say that shout out to Black Men's Candor. I'm the vice president of Black Men's Candor here at UCF.
Come on, Black Excellence.
Shout out to Shola Thomas as well, our founder as well. Ooh. She's amazing. I would definitely want to get her on the show. Shola is, oh gosh, for those of you who know Shola, you know her little giggle, her little nervous laugh, man. I love you, Shola. I love you, Shola. I can't wait to have you on. I am putting that in the air. I'm putting that in the atmosphere. Hopefully you receive it. But there is a big issue, and when I say big, I mean vast and deep issue with black men here in the U.S., maybe around the world. I haven't been around the world, so I can only talk about the devil I know, right?
Yep.
So here in the U.S. and we run from emotional connection. We run from emotional we run from like attacking our emotions, facing them head on and expressing them in any way other than anger. We translate any type of rise in temperature, any type of rise in emotion as anger because that seems to be socially acceptable. I know toxic masculinity runs across all races, but with black men, if we get angry, we get shot. It's so strange to me that I feel as if black men are right next to black women, very unprotected in this society. And we, of course, nobody else is going to protect us. We have to protect each other, right? We have to love each other. And for those of you who don't know, Black Man's Candor is a mental health organization that we offer a safe space for Black men or Black people to, specifically Black men, but anyone actually can come in and join. We offer a safe space to, release those emotions, release our insecurities and things like that around peers. Now, we're not mental health specialists. We are not professionals. We definitely refer to those who maybe have a little deeper obstacle that they need to cross. We definitely refer to CAPS. CAPS is amazing. If you're going through anything mentally, emotionally, definitely get the CAPS. They have puppies. You can go ahead and pet them.
They do.
Yeah, so CAPS is great. But for those who want to start at a more social level, definitely come through to Black Man's Candor meetings. Definitely, I'll be posting those on my Instagram page at the PNM podcast on IG. So yeah, but blackness, Black is.
Okay.
Black is what? How did that come across? How did that come up, my brother?
So, this is actually a very popular question. Everyone always asks me, how did you get from concept to print to mass production? And the story is actually a very interesting story, because people ask, did I come up with Black Is? And the answer to that is no, I did not come up with Black Is. And when they say, well, what? You didn't come up with it? I'm like, no. I mean, I feel like Black is just something that we've all as a community in general have, felt, but we've never been able to put it into words, and that's the reason why we have a blank at the end of the sentence. And it really started at the University of Central Florida when I was the multicultural. When I was in the Multicultural Student Center as the culture director for Black History Month. I started a committee, and in this committee, I invited not only Black leaders from other respective organizations within the university, but I also invited anyone. Anyone, and you didn't even have to be Black. Anybody who wanted to contribute to the month and shed a little knowledge and education upon a very oppressed, discriminated, and quite often stereotyped community. And so when I brought these collective individuals together, we tried to sit down and think of a theme that we would like to have at UCF for Black History Month, and we were just literally stuck. We tried to throw a couple ideas, a lot of them never caught, and one day we were just thinking, and all of us, we were sitting down, and someone said, hey, what about something, it gotta be like a short catchphrase. And one of us said, hey, what about Black is beautiful? And I'm like, well, I don't know. That's kind of that's very specific.
Cliched,
it's very cliche. And so we came up with a concept of Black is blank, because we wanted to be able to let the person who wears the apparel to make that distinction for themselves. And I think that it's funny when we're in America, we think a lot about Black people, and we just think of African Americans. But when you say Black people, it's more than just African Americans. It's more than just Caribbeans. It's the Caribbean. It's more than just Africa. You have Black people all over the world. You have Afro-Latino. You got Afro-Russian, Afro-English. I mean,
Afro-Asian.
Afro-Asian. I've been all over the world, and I have met people who are Black blank, and the thing is that the one thing that we might be known as in another country, those people from a different country are still held by the same standards and stereotypes from
That's
it.
wild.
And it is crazy. And even within ourselves. So what I wanted to do was that for Black History Month, I said, you know what, let's make apparel for this month. And so we came up with the concept, and I said, okay, let's put this on shirts so that way we can promote it and allow our students to go ahead and learn and educate and start a conversation. That was actually the main objective. So what do we want to do? We want people to start talking. We want people not just talking within our own community, but also talk cross-culturally. You know, intersectionality was something that we wanted to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And so once that was over, Black History Month was over, I said, you know what? This shouldn't be something that's just subjugated to just the university, you know, because there are a lot of other people within our community who need to know this, who need to start these conversations. And that is who I wanted to focus on. You know, I think that it's a lot of the universities in general, and I don't care whether you're African American or you're Asian or you're Caucasian, we're all privileged to be in college because there's a lot of people
Yes.
who are not able to get to this point.
I want you to go ahead and I want to make sure I highlight what you just said. Regardless on where you come from, and regardless on the hood that you may represent or things like that. And of course, oppression is oppression, and it blankets all of us. But for those of us who do have an opportunity of education, understand that privilege does come right next to it. Although we're Black privileged, which is something that means something a little different on this side of the world. But I want you to, if anything, feel some sort of comfort and also some sort of responsibility, knowing that you are afforded an education. Because where I come from, the neighborhood that I grew up in, man, or one of the neighborhoods I grew up in, not a lot of us made it to college.
Yeah.
Not a lot of us made it past high school, you know, and that's just being real, man. So I understand my privilege, you know, but I'm sorry, continue.
No. I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, back in my high school, I had majority of the people that I know and a lot of friends I've had friends who've died.
Mm-hmm.
I've had friends who said that they were going to go to college and they never got there. You know, I had friends who sold drugs, now they do drugs. I have friends who do drugs, now they sell drugs, and I have friends who do both, you know, and they're in the same cyclic cycle, just living paycheck to paycheck, just trying to survive and don't have the opportunity to get a college higher education. So I think that one thing that people need to realize is that you have privilege and you need to understand that. And the people I'm specifically talking to and that I feel like need to empower the most are African Americans who lived in middle class, or you lived in you didn't live in the hood, right? Or maybe you did live in the hood and you were able to get out. And now you have come across maybe wealth, and that wealth could not only just be financial, but it can also be knowledge and education. You have that ability to teach, you know, each one reach one, right? Go back, lift as you rise. You find another Black person with you, take that Black person with you and let them rise, you know, and they don't even have to be Black. It could be a minority. It could just be somebody, but just don't let the knowledge and that you acquire throughout your life and throughout your education that maybe you have acquired through privilege or maybe even through experience, let that go to waste, because that right there is precious gold that you cannot attach any monetary value to that, you know. However, it's such enriched information that once it's lost, it's like a gem just vanishing out of thin air. And I'm serious, like that's very important to me. But with Black is that I wanted to not only let those individuals who have that privilege of acquiring an education know about this. I feel like it's our community that we live in that needs to know about this, right? This is not just, I'm just starting a t-shirt company, you know, check me out, bro. Like, check me out. I'm starting a new t-shirt company. Yo, you know, I rep Orlando to the day I die. All that's no, like this is. I'm not trying to drop a mixtape. I'm trying to drop some knowledge. I'm trying to literally. This is a movement, you know.
And it's, you know, we normalize. Okay, so I want to touch on just the language that you just used as, you know, just to kind of make fun of the urban aspect of it, you know. But why going back to people who actually have come from and have seen, let's just be like, yo, quote unquote, real ass niggas. You know, like I've known and I've seen. You know, I grew up around some people who are really about that. Mm-hmm. And what has happened to our community is that we normalize that language, even when you're not from there, right? I coming from where I come from, I could be talking like, you know, I can use all sorts of colloquial phrases and things like that on my everyday, but I've vibrated myself higher to the point where I can speak multiple different languages, multiple different ways to speak the English language, and that's completely fine because you got to meet people where they're at. But I want you to be honest with yourself for a second. Listen, if you come from Pompano, you're gonna speak like you from Pompano. If you come from Broward County, you're gonna speak you from Broward County. But if you come from Boca Raton, West Palm Beach, you have never left Boca Raton, West Palm Beach, and you start appropriating certain languages, about to secure the bag, about to be in a trap, yeah, we got that work. You're not about that. You've never been about that. There are real ass niggas out here who are about that life. Don't play yourself. And those who are the OGs who are really about that life, they will tell you, hey, youngin, I mean, you should stop. Cause that shit ain't cool. Cause there's real ass niggas out here dying who speak that life, who's about that life. And they'll tell you, bruh, this shit ain't just for everybody, man. Some of us be rapping and trapping to get out. You feel me? But that's all they know. If you know better, do better. Don't normalize that language. Cause now you're spreading this false, this glamorization of hoodness, of this glamorization of being in a trap and things like that. That shit is whack. Don't do it. Don't do it. Leave it to the music. Leave it to the people who are actually about that. But I'm sorry, I went on a little bit of a soliloquy. So back to Black Is.
Yeah.
What is the mission of Black Is?
So the mission to Black Is that we as a company are trying to literally break all stigmas and stereotypes that have been placed on a very diverse group of people who are pretty much surrounded by people who lack cultural competency. It's very simple. We don't try to make it so glorified in the sense that, oh, okay, yeah, we're just, we're black people selling black shirts, help us out, yeah. Black Wall Street. No, we definitely try, and it's not even just African-American communities. Of course, we have our own agenda as well, but we want to make sure that we equipped our community with resources to be successful and not literally fall into the cyclic, I guess, platform that many other businesses follow under. Like for me, going through this journey, the amount of hypocrisy that small-owned businesses and even large businesses have, it just baffles me. A lot of people will say, oh, for example, I support breast cancer, and I want to donate $500 to breast cancer because that's what my business is all about. We support breast cancer, and they donate the $500. And to me, I don't think that's anything bad. But then they always say, yeah, we stand behind that. and then that's it. There's no other initiatives. They're not trying to get adequately involved. It's either they're trying to get a tax write-off, or they're just trying to get some publicity for some
conversation starter,
right? And some marketing stunt to get you to go and buy their stuff. And then for me, I don't see that. Like, my mission is literally to get into my community and help my community grow. And that, as a small business, comes in many different forms. And one of those is increasing that black dollar, investing into other black people and black businesses, minority businesses within my community. And then people don't understand that. The black dollar, literally a dollar stays within the black community literally less than 30 seconds before it gets out of our community. With any
22
other
seconds or something like that.
It's like 22 seconds. Any other racial group, that dollar stays within there for days, for weeks, for months before it leaves their community. And for me, it just baffles me that as a black community, we are so, enticed and kind of roped into all of these other marketing tools that the top 1% gets us in, and we don't understand to support our own.
And you know what's funny? And when you look at it, I want people to understand. Maybe people have never. I know there's a lot of folks who have never left their neighborhoods, that all they see is black people. But realize, we only make up 12% of this entire country. Yet we have the highest buying power in the country. Let that sink in for a second. If we are all so poor, if we are all so broke, why do we have the highest buying power in the entire country? Because we spend a lot of money. That's why. Frugality is not something that we glamorize in the black community. Whether that be some sort of, whether that be some sort of programming, so that maybe if we show off nice things, that we may feel more superior to the others, and we may feel more, we may feel, what's the word I'm looking for? Okay, so we may look better to massa.
Yeah,
looking like that. We wear shiny necklace. Hey, Massa gonna like me if I wear shiny necklace.
All right, Uncle Tom.
I don't want to offend anybody, but hey, this is what it is, right? We wear these things, and I understand you can use the aspect we were kings and queens, and we can wear necklaces and jewelry and things like that. Yes, you are right. That was a part of our culture 3,000 years ago in Egypt. If you're living in their diaspora, understand that your worth means something different over here. Whether I want that, whether I agree with the worth or not, understand that's what it is. Understand that they wore gold and necklaces and jewelry because they had wealth to do so. They had a community of wealth to do so. Now, if there are people like you who are being oppressed by people who don't look like you, you're showing off for what when people who look just like you are suffering? I heard this. I think I heard this from Spider-Man, right? And I'm just going to paraphrase here, but it says, if you have the power and the knowledge to do something, do it. You have to do something. If you have the power to help somebody, help somebody. Because if you don't, everything that happens to that person based on their lack of knowledge that you know is your fault. And that kind of hit me because if I know a way to help someone and I choose not to, if this person is harmed in any way because I did not share that knowledge, how would I feel? Right? is it, damn, you should have been better, bruh. So I knew not to go over there. Hey, that shit ain't my problem. Why do we have that? That's crab in the barrel mentality, right? And why are we so separated? We're separated from the larger community, which is America. And then we're separated in subsections of ourselves, of our community. You do a lot for the black community, Travis, or you're doing a lot for the black community right now at UCF. Yeah, you're racially ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I heard an argument which this person, I don't know who this person is. I've never met her in my life. She must have been a college student or something like that. But she was she had such such a vigor about her when she was speaking about Bruno Mars and Bruno Mars' music, and how he's, listen, I may be paraphrasing here, but how he's not black, yet he's making his riches off of black music, and he's kind of stealing black music, and he's not adding anything to it, and things like that, and how black people, we want our music from other people. It's like, that couldn't be more false, right? How, because of his racial ambiguity, why can't he, just because he's not the quintessential Afro phenotype, why can't he make that music, right? Why are we separating ourselves just because somebody doesn't have the nappy hair, or somebody doesn't have the thicker lips and the cut jaw and things like that? You know, why are we separating ourselves like that? Because Travis, whoever believes in that, but still loves Travis, I can tell you, Travis and Bruno Mars. I'm sorry, you know, like, they could be cousins,
probably.
You know, you know, sorry, not sorry, but you know, we have to pick a side here. Are we about black excellence, or are we about black separation, or black superiority based on how much black are you? You know, how do you feel about that?
So, man, there's so much. I will say one thing first, is that black superiority is something that I feel like is not only poisonous, but is a very toxic way of thinking, because that superiority complex in anything in general leads to nothing but even more discrimination and prejudice. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we do it upon our own selves within the black community. Mm-hmm. So personally for myself, that's something that I always kind of struggled with. So so those who don't know, I'm half black, half Asian. So, and most people, and it's funny because I meet some people and they're like, yeah, I thought you were just black. Maybe because of the things I did within the black community, they just make that assumption. Other people will look at me and they'll say, yeah, we didn't know what you were. We thought you were like Dominican, maybe, maybe Trini. You got to be Trini, or maybe Guyanese. And so to answer your question, how I feel about it is that I'm actually part of a group of different people. It's a forum actually, all over the United States. And one of the issues that, we all met up at the National Conference of Race and Ethnicity for Education. If you've never been, please go and enlighten yourself and be open-minded to it. Yes. Mm-hmm. I don't know where this year is going to be. I think it might be in Philadelphia. Do not quote me on that. Mm-hmm. However, it is an amazing conference where you can just find a huge pool of just great people just to talk about different injustices and different ways that we can advocate for each other and also just learn in the process about the different cultures and walks of life people go through. So one of them that I went to was actually called, and then it was a workshop that was actually called How a Person from how can a multiracial individual advocate for monoracial issues. So
everyone in the workshop was multiracial, our ambiguity was definitely unrivaled. And one of the biggest things, it was actually, it slips in my mind this man's name, but he did a spoken word at UCLA talking about how African-American athletes were being mistreated at the university as far as, tuition and, trying to progress their future in education. And as he did this spoken word, it had a lot of black people in it, and wore hoodies. It was very famous, so famous that it actually got on the news and through multiple channels. And many people were really throwing so much slander at him. And, a lot of the people were actually African-American, and it blew my mind. And they said, he was black and Asian. They said, whoa, you don't even look black. He had very, very high yellows, I guess people want to say that. And,
okay.
It, honestly, like if you would just take him by face value, everyone say, yeah, you definitely look Asian. There's no way you're half black. But the thing is that does that change the effect of, I know that there are even people who scrutinize Colin Kaepernick for taking a knee, and they're like, oh, you take a knee for black people. And most people wouldn't agree with that, because they were like, oh, he's really famous and stuff like that. But it's like, there are people who say, you don't know my pain, you're light skinned, And so for me, trying to advocate for African-American people, I'm like, does that make what I do irrelevant? Does it immediately devalue the work that I try to do when I try to advocate for people? So for me, when people try to look at my multiracial burning passion to just advocate for others, it highly irritates me. I'm not gonna lie, it really does irritate me. And things like that with Bruno Mars, it irritates me. And I guess it can kind of a different domain with Bruno Mars, because you're talking about music. But I mean, music is music. Music is a freedom of expression, and I believe that African-American influence is huge on music. I agree with that.
All music on the Western world is influenced by Africans.
Yes.
Let's just be honest. Like, the country music now came from slaves.
Yeah, going all the way to the blues. Gospel music. I mean, we're gonna talk about soul, jazz. I mean, these are the pioneers, everybody. Yeah. And so for me, it's like when Bruno Mars sees a genre that he feels that
and excels in, and he makes damn good music.
The thing is, if Bruno Mars sucked at singing, I'll be like, all right, Bruno, you need to calm down a little bit. But I mean, it's not even like he's not doing it justice. Like he's excelling in all fields. Ooh, Fergie. Ooh, did you say Star Spangled Banner?
Oh gosh, you drank some cold water that day. But
it's not as worse as Christina Aguilera.
Oh Lord. God bless Christina. Christina can sing.
Yeah.
But no, I feel you, man. And I think we get caught up on looks too much. I think once we have to know our history. Africans and African Americans, we have to know our history. I remember showing you a video about a gentleman named Akala, and he was a British rapper turned educator, and he very accurately, and he did this seminar at Oxford. Those of you who don't know Oxford, it's one of the most famous schools in the world. It's located in the UK. It's the UK. Yeah. I want to make sure I get my facts straight. But he talked about how history, especially Black history, which is all over the world, starts in Africa. Black history starts in Africa. Black history has been distorted on purpose. So. And that's throughout, because Africa has been invaded since, before we even started counting years, Africa has been invaded. So many times, by the European or by those who weren't even from Africa.
Colonists.
And the entire map of Africa is created by colonizers. You know, so it's like Africa. Those of us in Africa, those black people, Africans, also need to know the history, or as much of it as we can get, because we're still trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
We're still trying to figure it out. And then African Americans damn sure need to learn our history, especially what has been done to us here on the Western world. And I understand I do have Caucasian white, I do have a white audience, and there are some that may start to be like, well, here's the race stuff again, and you know, and may feel uncomfortable. But you don't know what discomfort feels like until you have to go on a bus and people who don't look, and you see people start to clench their bags just of the mere sight of you. You don't know discomfort when you start to see red and blue lights in the back of your in your rearview mirror, and you are convinced that today I might die. You don't know discomfort because your culture has not been perverted and has been blasted through the airways as a weapon to use against people who look like us.
So, Jordan, I got a question for you then.
What's up, man?
Oh yeah, we're flipping scripts now. Oh hell, welcome to the PNM podcast.
Welcome to the PNM podcast.
Question for you is,
what's up, man?
Have you ever experienced racism? And maybe you could just share.
Oh, damn,
something
sure.
that you,
I experienced racism here on campus.
Oh, come on now.
Like blatant racism. I you know what? I appreciate blatant racism because you know what? At least I know where the fuck you're coming from. You feel me? Like, if you call me, like, I don't like when you do underhanded stuff that are racist. Like, well, I was watching a video, and they talk about subtle racism, right? Nah, just call me a nigga to my face. I'd appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Right? But yeah, I have. I've experienced both sides of the story, especially when it comes to the police. I have an uncle who has been shot and killed by a police officer, an uncle that I barely knew, my mom's brother. So I understand that anger because I have a family member who is now out of my life. I have an experience who has been taken from me because of that. Actually, one of my uncles, his brother, is reopening the case and writing a book. Shout out to Uncle Wayne Reed. If you listen to this, I love you, man. I miss you. Can't wait to see you again. Yeah, like I have, man, and I can say this. My first real experience with racism was when I was in middle school. I was in 7th grade. I went to Bear Middle School down in Sunrise, Florida. We were at a soccer game, and me and my boy Christian, we were walking down. We're walking around a soccer game. We're just there supporting a couple of our friends because they were on the team. His girlfriend and a friend of mine as well. I mean, at this time, I dressed kind of, it's sunrise because it was like in the middle of the hood because it's sunrise and then it's plantation, which is kind of uppity. But then, there's Fort Lauderdale, stuff like that. So, it was a mixture of a bunch of different things. And so I had the long pant, I had the baggy pants sagging, things like that. We were walking past this white couple, and the white woman pulled Christian aside, didn't say anything to him, and she told me to leave. And Christian's like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm like, why? Why should I leave? Mm-hmm. Right? She's like, we don't like the way you dress here. You shouldn't be dressing like that here. And I'm like, Christian's dressed the same way. Like, he's Hispanic, though.
Right.
It's like, but he's 10 now, but back then he wasn't. So I'm like, what's wrong with me? Right? I'm like, man, fuck that. I'm not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that was one instance I was like, I didn't leave. Christians we just walked on the other side. I had another instance where I was called the cop. Somebody called the cops on me because I was waiting at a bus stop. Same area, but I was waiting at a bus stop by myself. I had a backpack on, long t-shirt, saggy jeans, and some filas. Back when filas were cool. I had the cops called on me, had my backpack searched. For what? Because I was a black boy standing at a bus stop. They thought I was selling work.
Wow, that's crazy.
And that was actually later on that year. Like, it's weird because, and the other parts of racism I've experienced with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And just subtle things. But those two were two of the more blatant aspects early in life that really affected me, that really brought that to light. And every other aspect after that, I'm like, all right, this is clearly racism. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I would just dismiss it because I understand, what, it's not your fault, honestly, because you've been bred to believe the way that you believe. And it just sucks because now, you're missing out on an opportunity because I'm really a good person. You're missing out on an opportunity to even learn me. But because of my skin color, you feel as if you're entitled to dictate my life. And that's wrong. So, and the instance I was telling you on campus, I was walking down to RWC. Young lady was texting on her phone. I'm walking down. I probably wasn't paying attention either, but I'm walking down. I know she was texting on her phone. We bumped into each other. She's like, "Move, nigga."
Whoa.
And I'm like,
whoa.
I was like, I was so baffled. She said, "Move, nigga," and walked. And I was so baffled because I'm like, you're like younger than me. I thought the next generation is supposed to be the one to end this fuckery.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay. Yeah, like it's so strange. It's so strange. And I think I want to end this off with this. It's like, it goes back to love. Why is it that love is the last thing that's on our mind when it comes to each other, when it's not in a romantic sense? Why is it that we have this trust no one first mentality? Why is it that everyone is our enemy first mentality that is the thing that's like plaguing us, that's controlling our actions? It all. And when I read the Willie Lynch letter, the second Willie Lynch letter, it actually, you understand that everything that we're going through right now has been predetermined, has been systematically planted in our society.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who don't know who Willie Lynch is, he was the racist of the racists.
That's where you get lynching from.
Yeah.
That's literally where you get lynching from.
He's the creator of the lynching. So if you ever want to educate yourself on and make some things in our society make sense, definitely read the Willie Lynch letter. But I want to leave this off with this. Everyone who's listening, try to love each other. Love each other differently, but learn different ways to love. Let hate be gone. Release hate from yourself. And I understand that love and hate are two sides of the same coin, but let's flip that bitch on heads real quick. No matter what you look like, you are my brother and sister. If you treat me with respect, I will treat you with respect. I will love you. I will do anything for you. I will not disrespect you. I will try to understand your struggles if you try to understand mine. You probably will never understand, but empathy is the underlying factor between racial relationships. Educate yourself, and I'll educate myself. If you help me, I'll help you. That's just being human at the end of the day. That's what we're supposed to strive towards. For those of you who believe in Jesus Christ, you sin and you use the excuse, well, I'm not Jesus. That's who you're supposed to be striving to be. That is the standard of existence in which you're supposed to reach for. So don't ever use that excuse to affirm your own insecurities, your own underlying prejudices. Because you're just being a hypocrite. For black people, I want you to understand that there is love out there for you. You may have to seek it. You may have to take a few punches in the face and in the gut to get it. But there's love out there. And it starts with each other. Understand your struggle is not unique to anyone if the person looks just like you. No matter where you come from. You may come from a higher class society, and you may think racism doesn't affect you, but it does. If you're from the hood, there is somewhere else. There is a better life out there for you if you just seek it. I understand that it's hard to pull yourself up from bootstraps, but lace up. Lace them tight. Stand your ground and defend yourself. Defend your love. Defend your heart. Defend your mind. Defend your people. And then love. Even when it's hard, love. Protect. And work hard for everything that you want, because it's out there for you. All things considered, with the people in mind. This has been Jordan Lee Dixon. Travis.
This is Travis Slocum.
Thank you so